Hi, my name is Elizabeth, and this is Out of the Box Problem Solving. So, in the next 20 minutes, we are going to look at a lot of different examples for how we might play difficult parts of our music. My intent is not to have you practice right now, but after this, when you're back with your music, you can take a look at this again or some of the examples we talked about and look at your challenging parts to see what you could try then. By the end of this class, you will have strategies to solve challenging passages when traditional handbell rules do not work. And an example of a traditional handbell rule is naturals down low, accidentals up high, and we put them in keyboard order. Or your low bell is in your left hand, it's a space note. Your line note is in your right hand, and it is the high note. Those are traditional handbell norms. So in this class, they're going out the window. We are going to look at bell placement, weaving and traveling four in hand, mallets, marts, and quick ringing, then some final tips and a thought to close this out. We are starting with bell placement. One of the ways that you can really be successful in what you play is how you set your bells up on the table. And in this song, Stille Nacht, the composer has so thoughtfully given us 5 flats. What an excellent opportunity to play the wrong bell if we use traditional setup. But the D5 and E5 ringer, they have 2 flats in the key signature. So they could pull their flats down, put their naturals up high, switch how their bells are set up, still D and E, low bell and high bell. But then when they reach down, pick up the bells to play, the first note should be in the correct key, which I don't know about you, my director really appreciates. So again, I can put my bells or my chimes in a different place, and that allows me to play the bell or chime with the incorrect hand. If you look at Scarborough Fair, this excerpt is actually about 12 measures long, and it's a whole lot of E bell to E chime to E bell, D bell to D chime, and back and forth. It makes it really difficult to play at the given tempo. But if I have my chime set up reverse, all of a sudden my E is in my left hand, and I have lots of time to get from that D to the E, and vice versa, my E to my D chime. It's going to look and sound like this. So it becomes a whole lot easier to switch in between those two. Sometimes, however, this does not work, and you have to take things a step further by looking at the whole entire piece and figuring out what your most important bells are that are your foundation, and what are your accidentals and when they happen. This is Now the Green Blade Riseth, which is pretty nasty at this particular part for the A5 and B5 ringer that uses A flat, B flat, B natural, all in 8 measures. And if it was set up traditionally, it'd be a whole lot of weaving that is really, really challenging to do when this song is played at tempo or even, heaven forbid, above tempo. I looked at my music and I found the best setup for me is putting those flats in the middle and my naturals on the side. And you'll see in the video on the next slide that this allows me to just turn my torso to get to whatever bell I need. There's only one time that I need to cross the midline to pick up a bell. Here we go. And this setup works for me the whole song. It is really important when you deconstruct that it functions for the whole song, not just a section, because you don't have time to rearrange your bells in most pieces. Luckily, this one does, and it makes this part that is so gnarly pretty fun to play. So then we're going to move on to weaving and traveling four in hand. And you can start your weave on the wrong hand, even though your bells are in correct order. We do this because composers seem to think that we're superheroes or have an extra hand or something. I'm not sure what composers are thinking, but I feel like they don't consider us when they write their music. They write it purely for a musical expression and a musical standpoint, which, sure, that's what you're supposed to do. But many times it leaves me tangled and with my bells in the wrong hand when I'm done because they didn't complete my part to a full weave. And my choices are to play the whole song backwards, or I have to switch them, which is not always possible. In this example of Stars and Stripes, I have a lot of time before I start playing to switch my bells. And so I wrote myself a note. My E is going to my left hand to be prepared for that weave. So when I end, I'm back to correct hands. Let's take a gander. And I'm set to keep on playing. So traveling four in hand is a specific technique, and you can find out more in Ben's class on weaving. I included it in this class because when I'm looking at a piece of music, I look at regular weaves, I look at bell placement, I look in four in hand, and if I look at can a friend help me out, and if none of those work, I look at traveling four in hand. It's one of my strategies to get out of and successfully play challenging parts of my music. And in Soliloquy for Bells, the poor F5, G5, they just don't get a break in these measures. They have to play all those plus their G flat without a single snippet of a rest. So they're going to use their traveling four in hand to get that G sharp or G flat, up, play it, put it down, and dampen the table to play the F and G together in the next measure. There you have it. So let's move on to mallet smarts and quick ringing. One of the big solutions and out of the box thinking is teamwork. I know a lot of us have our bells. We like our bells. We do not want to share our bells, but it is a really great skill and a way to problem solve by sharing and helping each other out. And if you look at this piece, G4, A4, their part isn't so bad, but B flat and C5, they have to mallet, ring. Solution, have the G4, A4 mallet that last B flat. Then they have one beat to get a hand on a bell. And the other ringer just has to go plunk, 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 which they can easily do. And then they still have a free hand to pick up their bell and play their part as well. When we are taught mallets, we are taught to alternate our hands and do a sticking that is a right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, or a reverse, left, right, left, right, left, right. And in this instance of tidings of comfort and joy, the right has an accent, the left has an accent, the right has an accent again. It is fairly challenging to play this accurately with those accents included and keep track of what's going on. So let's ditch that alternate sticking, throw it out the window, see what happens if we put all the accents on one hand and fill in everything else with our other hand. Interesting. I see a pattern forming, do you? With my accents in one hand, I can make sure they're actually true accents and can be heard. It also means that I can keep track a whole lot easier for myself, going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and changing your sticking up. Then we have those lovely times when composers do not give us a break in between a technique and a ring. They just expect us to deal or grow a third hand. I don't know. There are solutions to this, and one solution you're going to love. It's what you have been told not to do over and over and over again. It is playing a mallet with one hand. I said it, one hand malleting. Woohoo! I'm not going to do it the whole time. I'm just going to do it before I have to ring so that my hand is on my handle and I'm ready to mallet ring. I'll switch probably somewhere where the circle is. I can ring on beat 1, I'm ready to play, which is awesome because there's only 2 notes in the bass and one of them is mine. It's kind of important to be there. Other times we'll have some other techniques that have mallet and it has a mallet lift. But it also has me changing bells. You clearly must think we're superheroes. 2 techniques, use 2 hands. But my hands are not going to go at the same time with the same intent and purpose. My last mallet lift is there, 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 and there. Once I'm done using my hand that has a handle on that, it's gone. It's out of the way and over on the other bell. So the mallet can keep playing and then jump really quick. It looks like this. So the hands are not working at the same time, which is just fine because our hands do not work at the same time when we play bells. They do different things. Sometimes they just cooperate. Then you have times when you have a lot of marts. And how often does it happen that these are fast? Quite a bit, or rhythmic. Again, I was taught when you mart, it's just pushing the bell into the pad. Take my bell from playing down and mart. But you'll notice that is a whole arm motion. It's really hard to have any agility, speed, and accuracy with this and be able to do it for a sustained time. Let's not do a regular mart the way we were taught. Let's pull those marts back to the edge of the pad and mart more like a malleting motion. It's easier on my arms. I can do it for a longer period of time and I can get more accuracy with my rhythm, marting at the edge of that pad. One caveat, please make sure the pad is there and not the edge of the table so you don't bring the bell on the table. Then we have those quick repeated rhythmic notes that you are expected to ring. Again, we're using those circles and it's a lot. We can use gravity to help ourselves out and have that bell, which we're pointing down, which we're not supposed to do, but it's what we're gonna do. We're gonna break those rules. That way, gravity is helping me to play accurately, quickly, and for a sustained period of time. So that example was acclamation in G. That pattern keeps on repeating, and gravity is going to help me do that. So my final tips and thoughts for you are this. First, I love, love, love sharing music, and I do for 2 reasons. It means there are 4 hands for a page turn instead of 2. Yes! We have a much better chance of being able to turn that page. Second, it goes to my other point. There is now space between the folders. So if I'm doing something really complicated and I can't get my bell above the folder, I can aim for in between the folders. The sound will still travel out to the audience and to the director. The third thing to think about is ask for help. It might be your weaving expert, your traveling four in hand, your bass, your malleting, your director, someone from a different group. Ask them for help with how they would do something. Or if I'm not ready to travel 4 in hand, hey friend, that one measure, could you play my G flat? Problem solved, it sounds beautiful. No one needs to know. The very last thing for you to think about is that this is a skill. It is going to take time to slowly build your mental flexibility. You might take a song that you've got down pat, easy peasy, switch your bells and play it backwards. You're going to be surprised what your brain starts doing. Or on that piece that has one note that plays ad nauseum, switch your hands And you're going to have to stay mindfully there and present so that you remember to switch back. And my absolute final thought for you today is this. Breaking the rules means going against your muscle memory and your expected behavior. It's going to take time. It's going to take practice. So the time to break those rules is when you first get a piece of music, not the day before the concert. When you get your music, you're going to look for those challenging parts, come up with a solution, try it out. It works, awesome, keep it. It doesn't, scrap it, try something else until you find a solution. Then you can practice it and get it ready for your performance. Thank you so much for coming today for Out of the Box Problem Solving. I hope you enjoyed the class. I will be available. This video is out on the internet, so you can watch it as many times as you'd like. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you so much. And we're back. That was a great class at Elizabeth. And we're going to do a little discussion about it, but not too much, because we have a big surprise. Not a big surprise, just a big thing coming soon. So, Elizabeth, I'm going to hand it off to you because it was your class.
Oh, why? Thanks, Ben. So
Sure, that's
kind.
just what you wanted.
Of course. I mean, bell hog, so why wouldn't I want to be in charge of the chat too? One of the questions that came up in our comments was about being down a ringer or having to play a larger amount of bells, and how do you handle that? So I am actually going to turn this over back to you and possibly Derek, since you guys have been playing for so long, and to Barb. What do you do when someone's not there and you have to cover those bells?
Sounds good. Guess I'll take a quick crack at that. I'm also a church director, and surprisingly, we have a lot of missing ringers. So, of course, what we end up doing is we move people around, and whoever has the strongest forehand gets to take all the bells they can, which means I get a ring and conduct more than I would like. So, if you happen to be in the Reno area, come join my church, not Derek's.
Hey now. Our churches
Derek?
are right down the street from each other, so we have competing bell choirs.
If you are looking at the bass part and you're down people, one of the things you can do is look at the chord structure and then choose to skip certain notes. You want to play the roots of the chords. The third, unless it's part of a passing line, is not going to be as important. So you can be a little picky on what you play when you're down a ringer or you have extra bells and don't have enough people to play them.
Yeah. And sometimes you can sacrifice a position in the middle of the group too. Like for instance, we did Jason Krug's How Sweet the Sound last year, and like the A5, B5 position basically has nothing to do the entire song. So you can sacrifice that position and forehand it out if you need to add more people.
So what do you do if everyone has their own music and they all have to get their page turns, but it's a really busy page turn?
I know I have a little secret I like to do. How could you be successful for that?
Go ahead, Ben.
I use forehand. That way, if I have my two bells in one hand, I can still turn my pages just fine. And then I can go back to normal. But that's just my little thing that I do.
Another time to use traveling forehand. Nice. Barb, do you have a trick for tricky page turns?
I always like to read ahead, but I also like to prepare for them. I will often write myself little notes before I have to turn the page as to what's on the other side. And the converse is true. If I find that I have quite a bit of time at the bottom of the page, I'll turn it early and then write a reminder for what I was supposed to be playing on the previous page. So that works best for me.
Yeah, I think writing notes to yourself just in general is a pretty good tip that should have been included in the class, of writing what gets your attention and what you need to remember, whether it's what bells and go in what order, or slow down there, or look up, or these are the notes we're supposed to play for that page. When you are looking at your music and your trouble spots, what solutions do you try first? Derek, would you like to take this one?
Ooh. Page turns are always a big one. Key changes are a really good one. Or if you're just glancing over the music, look for clusters of accidentals or clusters of black dots. That will probably be your clue that you need to look there first.
Barb?
I like to look for patterns and see where something comes back, and it might be in a different key. I always like to check that out. I also like to see if I happen to have any pretty important notes, whether it's a solo line or especially tempo changes. Those I really want to mark, and I want to see if I'm the one responsible. If I'm like the metronome, then I want to make sure and have that part really solid so that I can look up at the director. Says the director, but you know that helps a lot.
How about you, Ben?
So as a bit of a bell hog, if I have one of those really hard parts, I'm going to see if I can play with it and get it to work for myself. I'll usually start with trying to four-in-hand something, then weaving. I kind of stick with handing a bell off to a neighbor as a last resort, simply because the more you start doing that, the more complex our music gets. I hate to be one of the ones where suddenly every person has two bells that aren't theirs and you have to remember that before the song. And sometimes one person forgets something in the song and everything goes wrong. Although that is a viable option, and Tintab does it all the time.
Yes, we do. And sometimes some of us just have trouble passing a bell off even when we're supposed to pass the bell off.
Mine.
Ben and I sometimes fight over bells when we play next to each other, but I try and do a weave first, and I really like looking at my placement and doing a reverse weave so I'm starting in the wrong hand, or I really look at my bell placement to see if I'm successful. Four-in-hand is not my go-to. It's what I'm going to go to second or third down my list, but there are so many different ways that you can problem solve those challenging songs. And so I have one final question for the three of you before we get to the end of our evening that I'm so excited for. What is one thing about bell ringing you wish someone had told you when you first started?
Barb, you played the longest. You go first.
Oh, thank you, Ben. Thank you. I wish somebody would have told me how addicting it can be. I love playing my flute, but I find that I have less and less time to play my flute because I want to be more and more involved with bells.
I would say for myself, I was going to say addicting, so now I got to go for something else. But I wish someone had told me all the different ways to damp when I started out. Because I feel like in my progression of bell ringing, I've gone from damping too much to not damping enough to now finding somewhere in the middle. So, I wish someone had explained that to me from an early age.
I should not have let myself go last. Such good answers. I've been playing since I was a wee lad with Barb, so I wasn't told very much at all beforehand. I think the thing I wish I'd told others before, though, is just how important this can be for mastering your rhythm techniques. Because I find I'm pretty good at rhythm, better than most of my cello friends. I wish I was a better cello player overall, just because handbells is all about rhythm. So I wish more people were told to try it, to master the rhythm skills.
So I guess it's only fair if I made you guys answer that I answer too, huh?
Yes.
I had this really weird bell path of being taught how to do specific things and then being left on my own to just figure it out and do it. So I wish someone had told me that yes, doing something the incorrect way, the wrong way, is just fine. Take time to learn the correct way, and then do whatever you got to do to make it musical.
Yeah.
Amen. Musical. Definitely. Make it musical.